Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Isabel Cosillo Carballo. I'm the Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Planning Council. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you know, with the traffic situation today, there's been a bit of a delay. There you go. Thank you, Commissioner. So once everyone's seated, come up here, Madam Chair. There you go. Yeah. And thank you. It's my great honor to welcome all of you here and to introduce my chair of the South Florida Regional Council, Patty Asef.
Thank you very much, Isabel.
You're very welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. Did you have a nice drive over here this morning, or was it a little harried? I guess it was. I guess we picked the right day for this conference. Anyway, my name is Patty Asef, and I'm the chair of the South Florida Planning Council. On behalf of the council, I would like to welcome all of you to this very important and timely meeting. We have such a great turnout today with more than 200 registrants for this meeting, including guests from Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. I would like to thank Broward County. I saw Bertha Henry somewhere. There she is. Wave there, Bertha. For hosting this meeting and the breakfast here at the Convention Center. And our guest speakers and panelists for generously contributing their time and effort to make this conversation possible. The Council's mission is to provide state and local policymakers with the information they need to build a better future for South Floridians. Today, we are here focusing on one of the most important issues facing our region, communities and economic future. And guess what that is? Transportation. And unfortunately, we didn't get that transportation half penny that we were all looking for, but we're certainly not going to give up, and we'll be working on that in the future. Before we get started, let me make sure that everyone here will turn off their phones and put them on silent. And really, it would even be better if you just put them away and didn't use them while you're here at this conference today. I do want to take this opportunity, first of all, to introduce some of my colleagues on the South Florida Regional Planning Council. And if you'll please stand as I mention your name. Broward Commissioner Beam Fur. He's stuck in traffic. Okay, he will be coming shortly. My colleague Gary Goldberg. Commissioner Udine, Michael Udine, I think he's here somewhere. And congratulations. Yeah, well, you weren't affected this morning. And then our Miami-Dade Commissioner, Daniela Levine Cava. And our other new Broward County Commissioner, Senator Steve Geller. He's stuck in traffic also. Well, with that, all that being said, and who's going to replace? Okay. Well, it's my great pleasure right now to introduce Broward County Commissioner Michael Udine again. Thank you.
Wow, I went from zero to hero in like 4 weeks. I'm already the keynote, luckily for the traffic. Thank you, Patty. Good morning to everyone. It's great to see a large turnout for such an important conversation. I want to thank the South Florida Regional Planning Council for organizing this event, County Administrator Bertha Henry for reaching out to the council and providing so much assistance. And I want to welcome all the elected officials are here. I'm supposed to introduce them all. I will do it quickly because I know, being in the audience, no one likes to hear all this. Mayor John Adornato. They're the registered elected officials that are here. Someone from Congressman Ted Deutsch's office. Commissioner Margaret Brown from Weston. Commissioner Deborah Case. Vice Mayor Maxwell Chambers. Mayor Joy Cooper. Commissioner Julie Fishman, newly elected from Tamarack, Senator Geller, Commissioner Tom Green, Commissioner Peter Hernandez, Representative Christian Jacobs, Commissioner Daniela Levine Cava, Mayor Josh Levy, Commissioner Romney Rogers, Mayor Hazel Rogers, Vice Mayor Richard Rosenzweig, Mayor Dan Sturmer somewhere, Commissioner Michael Udine, I heard he is awesome, so Commissioner Beverly Williams, Vice Mayor Beam Farr, stuck in traffic, there's an accident on 95, Commissioner Chip LaMarca, Commissioner Tim Ryan, Commissioner Francis Suarez, Commissioner Steve Abrams I saw from, there he is, Commissioner Richard Blattner, and anybody I didn't mention is not on this list, so don't blame me, it's not my fault. Today we have a unique opportunity to develop a shared and understanding of the opportunities that affect all of us in Southeast Florida. We want to make sure that today is about a frank, honest, and constructive conversation. Hopefully there's no press here. That will bring clarity to the issues and illuminate the critical steps forward. We will have more conversations, obviously, about this issue so that we can hopefully come to some type of agreements on the best way to move forward. With that said, it is my pleasure to turn the meeting over not to Beam Farr, who's in traffic. But John Kaliski. Okay.
Well, good morning. I'm John Kaliski from Cambridge Systematics. It's my pleasure to be the moderator today. Thank you for your flexibility. It's uncanny. I was saying how often a transportation event seems to be a day where there's traffic. So we will get all of our speakers here. We'll have Vice Mayor Furr speak to us as soon as he's able. But we thank you for your flexibility. And I too want to thank Bertha Henry and the Broward County for sponsoring, and the South Florida Regional Planning Council, and all of you for taking time out of your day for this very important conversation. I also want to thank the speakers and the panelists. I know that they've all been working very hard to prepare their remarks and have been giving a lot of thought to these important issues. We have a great set of elected officials and public servants and private sector leaders who have committed their time to be part of this discussion today. So we thank all of them for their time. This is a complex issue, and as we've heard, this is really about not just our transportation system. This is about our economy. It's about our quality of life, and it's about sort of working together. As one person reminded me, not how to move forward, but how to make informed decisions about what's best for this county and for this region. So I'm going to very briefly review the agenda before we get started. We're going to sort of start at the 30,000 foot level, or really sort of a 7-county and 3-county level, and we'll hear from Isabel again about the sort of context for thinking about the future of this region. We'll also hear from Mayor Susan Haney about the regional long-range transportation plan that's been developed by the 3 metropolitan planning organizations. Then we'll get down and look at the Tri-Rail Coastal Link project itself as a key part of that vision that's been laid out from the future. And we have District Secretary Jerry O'Reilly and Jack Stevens, the Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, to give us an update on that. Then we will move and kind of look at a little bit closer down to the ground how the project is beginning to move forward in Miami-Dade County, and we've got a panel of speakers that we hope everybody will be here by the time we start to kind of give us an update on what's happening in Miami-Dade County with Miami Link and some of the other corridors down there. We'll also get a quick update on the Bright Line project as well. So a lot of information, a lot of updates, a lot of that we'll be providing. We'll then take a break and then really come back, and the heart of the program is the panel that will begin after the break. We'll have a team of leaders from Broward County here to give us their thoughts on some of the opportunities, some of the challenges, some of the issues that need to get looked at moving forward, and also an opportunity to get some input from all of you on that subject as well. So I've asked all of the speakers, to give us updates, to as much current information as possible, to be as given the number of people on the program to be concise, but also we've asked everyone to sort of lay out all the key issues on the table in a very candid way. So we're hoping for a very good discussion. I'd ask the same from everybody here as well, and we'll have some opportunities throughout the day for questions, for comments. A couple ways to do that: the microphones that are there in the aisles, but also on your table in front of you, there's some index cards. If you want to jot down a question or a comment and hold it up, staff will collect it, and we'll kind of look for some trending topics to make sure we're asking them on the panels as we go along. So with that, is everybody ready to get started? Thank you for being here, and let me start our first panel. As I mentioned, we're going to really look at the regional context in this region, and we've got two speakers. We'll begin with Isabel, and as mentioned, Isabel is our host for the day and Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Planning Council. She's going to talk a little bit about the effort that the entire seven-county area has been engaged in looking to the future of this region. After Isabel, and I'll invite Mayor Haney up to join us as well. Mayor Haney is one of the people that I don't know how she does everything that she does, so wears many hats, but the mayor of Boca Raton, but also she's here today in her capacity as the chair of the Palm Beach Metropolitan Planning Organization and also the Southeast Florida Transportation Council, and she'll kind of explain the importance of that role to us. So let me turn it over to Isabel.
Hey. Oh, thank you. So good to have support. Good morning again. And again, I want to recognize Mayor Haney. I'm not sure she was on the list of all the officials, but she's definitely an important part of this program. And as we move through the day, you'll see that we're not going to spend a lot of time introducing people individually, but you do have in your packages a set of bios so you can refer to them, and then that way we'll be able to get more to the conversation part of the program. I'm going to be very brief. I was asked just to speak a little bit to the regional context for this concept of a region in motion and why the conversation about balanced mobility is so important, including different modes, automobiles, transit, rail, all these different things are important. So very quickly, back in 2009, there was a meeting of the secretaries of EPA, DOT, and HUD at the federal level, and they came to the conclusion that when they were working individually in their own little silos, they really weren't as productive in getting what they wanted accomplished, done. So they decided to create an interagency partnership, and out of that partnership came the U.S. HUD Sustainable Communities Program. This was in 2009. In 2010, there was an opportunity to apply to be a HUD Sustainable Community with funding, significant funding from the federal government to undertake important regional initiatives. But you needed a regional partnership, and we really had like parts of one, but we didn't really have a complete one. And so I worked with my counterpart, Michael Busha from the Treasure Coast Council, Regional Planning Council, and with many of you. You are the team that helped bring that home. And so we created the Southeast Florida Regional Partnership. We had more than 180 organizations, colleges, universities, nonprofits, philanthropy, individuals, and from the seven-county region. Because what we know is that we're all interconnected. And so the project area was Southeast Florida, the greater Southeast Florida, which is recognized by DOT, the Enterprise Florida, et cetera. And that's from Monroe all the way up through Indian River County. And so we have this 295-mile corridor, seven-county partnership, and not just geographic area, but organizations within those counties. And together we created our partnership, and we all worked on putting together an application. I wish Secretary Wolf was here as opposed to in traffic, so he could hear me thank him for the incredible support that he and his staff gave to the regional councils and all the partnership members in creating the application. Long story short, we were one of original 45 HUD sustainable communities with, again, the help of our counties, everybody coming to the table, our cities, business organizations, and we secured a $4.25 million grant to develop what would become known as the Southeast Florida Prosperity Plan, the Regional Southeast Florida Prosperity Plan, the 750. 7 counties, 50 years. It's a long-range plan looking out. And so, you know, what's less known is that this really was a locally driven effort. All of you and our partners in the partnership contributed more than $2 million in-kind contributions to make that plan a reality. There were some key themes that came out of that plan. One was that we really needed to be climate resilient. We really needed to focus on, and the report's this big, okay? So I'm happy to send a link to everybody. Oh, in fact, Chair, could you hand me this one? Thank you. There's a nice consumable summary report, so that you're welcome to have. And the upshot of that was that there were priorities that we needed to take on as a partnership and as a region to move forward. And we needed to prepare for climate resilience and change. And in fact, a great thing that was undertaken during that process was that the Southeast Florida Regional Climate Compact that was started by Broward County, Miami-Dade, Monroe, and Palm Beach actually went and helped out in the Treasure Coast region. So we came out with a 7-county strategy for that. The other thing was, of course, economic competitiveness, workforce, access to opportunity so that everybody is able to participate in the economy. That was a key theme. And region in motion. Now, region in motion talks about balanced mobility. And this is why we're here today. Part of the reason we're here today is to have a conversation. And ironic that today of all days, everybody's stuck in traffic, but like for hours. This is a conversation we're going to have today. I'm, again, very pleased that you're here. I can't think of, for me, I'm a bit of a nerd, and I can't think of a better way to spend the morning than in a room full of good people who are smart and are interested in the future of South Florida. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Haney.
Well, good morning. I'm Susan Haney, and I am the mayor of Boca Raton, but I'm here this morning to share with you as chair of the Southeast Florida Transportation Council, which is our regional MPO. And as you can see, our tagline for our long-range plan is 3 counties, 1 traveling public. And, you know, Isabel may think she's a nerd. I prefer transportation wonk. I think that's a better thing. And I've been held elective office on and off since 2000, and I see so many friends here in this group. This is the core group of believers in the project that we're trying to advance. So here's just a quick look at what our area looks like. We are the 4th largest urbanized area in the United States, and you can see that significance of 5.6 million and growing. Very, very significant player in the United States. And look at the growth that we're forecasting, 25% more people by 2040. And you can see our roads today, so we better come together and come up with a solution to address our transportation needs. Mobility certainly is a quality of life issue, and that's why we're all here, the greatest minds in South Florida, to identify how to work regionally and how to advance this Tri-Rail Coastal Link project. And look at the statistics on regional trips. These are trips among the 3 counties. And you can certainly see that 12% of them are all regional. And this requires many partners and many agencies to come together to identify solutions and to work together to implement. We have the 3 MPOs representing Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach County. Then when you see the DOT and toll agencies, we've got districts 4 and 6 of the FDOT, the Turnpike, MDX, and then all the transit agencies, MDT, BCT, PalmTran, and SFRTA, all the counties, all the cities, the airports, the seaports, the planning councils, and the freight, rail, and shipping. So it is a huge group of stakeholders that really need to come together to have collaboration and partnership to make this all work. And here's just a look at what our regional network looks like. We've got over 1,500 miles of roadways, 263 miles of rail. That's a very significant number. 132 miles of waterway, and we're happy to have marine industries here this morning with us, and 29 different hubs. So it's a significant transportation system with many modes. And what CEFTEC did, the 3 MPOs have come together, and we created a regional long-range transportation plan. And we really think that this is unity in action of the 3 MPOs of this region coming together to developing this 2040 vision. We developed goals and objectives. We identified regionally significant facilities. We have a transit vision as well. We developed a highway network plan. Let's not forget bike and pedestrian. And we considered freight, and other improvements that will just make the level of involvement for regional coordination work. This plan is on our website, and you can access that and read about. We prioritized, and it was really a model for regional collaboration. And our transit vision, providing more options and better connections for Southeast Florida's commuters, residents, and visitors. Very simple, very powerful vision, and a very difficult vision to make work and to have it realized in the built environment. Here's a look at what premium transit in South Florida looks like. On the left is what we have now, and for the future is on the right, and you can see all the connections, and certainly the Tri-Rail Coastal Link is an important part of our future premium transit. And at that, I will end just by saying, you know, this is, we can't pave our way out of what's going on in South Florida right now, and these are the greatest minds in transportation in our state here to have this conversation, to identify. We know what the challenges are. We can see half of our speakers aren't here yet. We know what those challenges are. You know, we can have the greatest plan in the world. The reality is funding. We know that's the big stumbling block. But I am confident that together we can find the solution, we can join hands, and we can drive it forward. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor Haney. So I guess we have a room full of transportation nerds or wonks, whatever we want to call it. But actually, we do have a few moments. So does anybody have a question for Isabel or for Mayor Haney on what we've just heard? Oh yes, and yes, as I mentioned earlier, you can either come to the microphone and ask a question, or if you want to jot something down on the card, that we'll kind of collect those over the course of the day. So any questions? Oh, Isabel has a question. All right. Is it of yourself? Or,
Hello, self. No. Eileen, are you in the room? Oh, do you know if the commissioner is going to be able to make it? All right. So maybe we should start with Commissioner. Well, wait. First it's Jerry and Jack, right?
Our next panel is here.
Yeah, so let's do Jerry and Jack.
Yeah.
It rhymes.
And, all right. Well, thank you, Isabel, and thank you, Mayor Haney, for your... Yes, feel free to stay. I know the wonks want to be here. So, and actually, I do want to take a moment and actually do recognize our 3 MPOs are here. So Eileen Bouclé in the back will be speaking shortly from Miami-Dade MPO. I don't know if I saw Greg Stewart yet. All right. Oh, excellent. Greg Stewart from the Broward MPO and Nick Earn from Palm Beach. All right, they're all sitting together. So that is partnership right there. So. Also, I do want to recognize Commissioner Beth Keegle from the Florida Transportation Commission, who's come down to join us for the day as well. So with that, we're now going to kind of go from that large vision we've heard about the future of the region and of transit and start talking about the Tri-Rail Coastal Link project in particular. And we have two speakers to kind of give us an update on the work to date and sort of some of the current activities. We'll begin with Secretary Jerry O'Reilly from Florida Department of Transportation, District 4.
You know, I also want to mention, as you know, nothing happens unless we're all working together. So I'm very pleased to have today the leader of the business community in Broward County, James Donnelly, who's the chair of the Broward Workshop. So thank you so much. And George Platt, the chair of the Transportation Committee.
Good morning, everybody. Jerry O'Reilly, District Secretary, District 4, Florida Department of Transportation. Nice to see a big crowd. A pity it isn't bigger, but I guess they'll be here at some stage. If I take a step to the right here, there's going to be a big problem. Got me scared standing here. Okay, so why is this project important? And I think it's good to have just a quick look back at the issues from the region's perspective about why this corridor is important. The densest urban corridor in Florida. It's the region's economic core. 1 million jobs, 1.6 million people, and growing daily. 3 business districts, 3 international airports, 3 major seaports, 3 million trips daily. 17% of our region's travel happens in this corridor from 95 to the beach. Highways are at capacity. I think people are seeing that today. Whether they're at capacity or incidents on them causes problems. You got US 1 and I-95 are the major north-south corridors in our region. I-95, people didn't get here today because of incidents on I-95. Even if there wasn't incidents on I-95, it still has trouble moving traffic. Down in Miami, you got somewhere like 230,000 vehicles a day. Getting into South Broward, you got 300,000 trips daily on it. Up in Palm Beach County, it's around 170, 180,000 trips daily. It's just various degrees of level of service F, which is a catch-all for saying it doesn't work. US 1 in Miami-Dade carries 60,000 people level of service F. In Broward, it's up around 40,500 around Broward Boulevard area. Level of service F again. A little bit better up in Palm Beach, 32,000 vehicles and growing, level of service D. We can't build our way out of congestion, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. But this sets the stage why. I think the little slide that you probably can't read in the bottom right is very important too. The people who travel in our community don't really care about where the borders are. They don't care about county lines. They want to get from A to B. And there's no sign up. Well, there might be actually a sign, but they don't care if they're crossing between counties. So you've got a huge amount of trips from Broward, 127,000 trips daily going south into Miami-Dade, and you've got trips across the Palm Beach County line, and you've got long distance trips, all happening with people every day and dealing with the traffic that's associated with it. So the history of the project. I'm leaning on something here that's causing that to happen. There we go. Hey. So the project isn't quite as old as this map, but it's approaching it. This project has been worked on in various forms since 2004 and probably thought about long before that as well in pieces. That gives you some of the key things that have happened over the time. A couple of major issues have happened. 2012 was when FECI announced All Aboard Florida, that became a big game changer for the study. So it presents challenges. The challenges, more trains in the corridor, more trains have to fit in the same piece of right-of-way, but great opportunities too. They're complementary services. They're complementary services, plus the infrastructure gets put in place to run Brightline, can potentially assist in the corridor as well. So both positives and challenges. In 2013, the partners that were working on the project developed an MOU, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail as we go on and show you what the responsibilities were. And we're ready to enter into project development right now. So it's probably worth just taking a quick look at what the difference is between Tri-Rail Coastal Link and Brightline. Two different services, but complementary. It's commuter versus intercity. The major issues you want to think about is the frequency of the trains. There'll be planned to be twice as many trains on the Tri-Rail Coastal Link corridor as the intercity. Different markets are served. Station spacing is very different on them. And obviously, probably the single biggest difference is private funding versus public funding. So what is the project? Tri-Rail Coastal Link is a comprehensive project that integrates the two rail lines in our communities, what's historically been called the CSX line and the FEC line. As you all know, the CSX line is owned by Florida Department of Transportation, and then Tri-Rail SFRTA operates the trains on it. This is an integrated system of commuter rail on both lines operated by Tri-Rail, was what the project envisages. It's got two crossovers on the north end and the south end that allow trains to cross over. It's also got one right in the middle in the Pompano area. So that allows trains from the western part of Palm Beach County on the CSX line, travel south, cross over, and travel into downtown Miami. So ultimately, that's the vision for the project and what it's seen. There's a lot of talk about stations always on the projects, and I just wanted to put this up just to give you a feel for the type of criteria that are out there and that are used in any project around the country that looks at stations. You've got local service with closely spaced stations. You've got city and sub-regional. You've got regional services. So commuter rail, if you look at the books, is somewhere around 4 to 6 mile station spacing. This is a fairly dense area. The stations envisaged in the study we've done are somewhere around 2.5 to 5 miles apart. The current plan is to move 25 stations forward in the study. We think the right startup along the whole corridor is somewhere around 20 stations. That's on the new part, not including the existing stations on the Tri-Rail line. Ultimately, the decision is what is a cost-effective system that balances access and balances travel time and can secure federal funds as your startup. There's no problem as the line develops and hopefully is as good or better than everybody thinks and can attract more ridership and can attract more stations. So what are the evaluation criteria that you use when you're looking at stations? Well, they're all here laid out in front of you, and transportation people probably are fully aware of all these. You know, you got to look at the population, the ridership, what the land use, is there supportive land uses, connectivity, etc. These are consistently and fairly applied throughout the whole evaluation process. The stations that are in the study right now, and I won't go through all of these, but where you see the funny little bubble, that's saying that the study will examine both, in this particular case, it's Lake Park and Riviera Beach in Palm Beach County as potential station locations, but the belief is one should start initially and one should be on the study. But we don't know which one. We think further refinement in the project development needs to be done to make that decision. Similar picture in Broward County. So we think the startup, the right size is around 6 stations, but we'll study 9. And in Miami-Dade County, all the talk so far, you know, it's been 6 stations in or around these general areas. So I wouldn't be an engineer unless I put up a really complex chart that nobody can understand. But this speaks a little bit to the MOU that was developed and what the responsibilities that were envisaged by the various partners. It also speaks to what the federal process is, and that vertical line right here is where we are today, ready to enter project development. The MOU envisages FDOT being the lead for this study, the lead agency, i.e. the ones controlling the consultants but working with all the local partners, bringing it through project development, and then RTA being the ones who would implement and operate. It also talks to the finance plan. So already there's been general frameworks of what could be done, and RTA have done extensive work looking at the potential for financial plans, but obviously that's a key component to this project, the finance. What's the status today? Well, the project's on hold. The project development phase is fully funded with state funds, so the money is there to complete this study through project development, and project development ends when construction is ready to start. So that money is there. The preliminary environmental work that you would have to do around any of the stations, the track, that's all being done. So we believe when the right things are in place, this can quickly move through this process. And at the moment, SFRTA have done all the work they can do right now on the finance plan. When you go through, when the project development phase starts, there's 3 areas that need to work concurrently and move forward to have a successful project. You have to go through the environmental process, that NEPA process. Definitely the easiest part. That's just carrying out the process, and there's many people capable of doing that. The DOT right now is the one identified to do that, and we don't think that'll be a problem. Project competitiveness, the ridership, the land use, the costs, project rating has to be right to capture federal funds. We believe it can be and is in this corridor. So we don't see that as a major problem. Funding, and operating funding specifically, and access to the corridor, and paying money to access the corridor is the big stumbling block for this project and the reason it hasn't advanced for the last 10, 15 years. This project has to get a commitment of operating funds. And it can't move through this project development phase without having a finance plan that spells out where the money is coming from to operate the train. What type of costs are we talking about? So the numbers up on this screen are in 2013 numbers, and you might ask, why is that? Because it's the last time we updated the costs, A. And B, it was based on the infrastructure that was in the ground right then. A lot of things have changed on this corridor, as you're aware. Costs could have gone down in some areas, up in other areas. But over the entire length, it's around 800 million, which usually gets people excited, an $800 million project. I'd like to put it in context for you a little bit, though. We talked about US 1 and I-95. We can't build anymore. So we've built roads in Broward County, more or less finished now, and we're building on the interstate as we speak. So if you were to go out and buy right-of-way on an arterial in Broward County, which we do, which the MPO have prioritized in the past, you're in the region of 80 million a mile to build a road. So specifically, State Road 7, Southern Broward County, right-of-way and construction, all in, 80 million a mile. If you go out in the interstate and build express lanes inside your right-of-way, so you don't have to buy right-of-way, you're not paying anybody an access fee, you're not doing any of that, you're in or around 25 to 30 million a mile. This project is 85 miles long. Capital costs around 800 million. So is it good bang for your buck or not is to be decided. I don't think capital cost is the major issue. What's always been anticipated is a 50% federal, capture those funds, and 25% state and local split. O&M is the big issue. The last estimate was in the region of 40 million. We have a range up there. RTA right now is accepting bids, and Jack may talk some about this, I'm not sure. So that can be updated once those bids come in with the latest costs. And then obviously a big gorilla in the room, the track access fee. How much is that? Who's going to pay it? Where will it come from? What form will it take? That has not happened or been negotiated, or nobody committed to that right now. So what needs to happen for the project to move forward? There has to be a finance plan. Somebody has to develop a finance plan that can be seen to work for this project to move forward. There has to be an identification and commitment of local funds for operating. This may be inside baseball, but there has to be indemnification and release of liability for Tri-Rail Coastal Link trains to run on the FEC corridor, and that's something that's being worked on right now, but it has to happen and successfully get completed. And it's a legislative issue, so there's changes will be required for that. The track access fee has to be negotiated, determined, and how it's going to be paid. And then what's the right approach for this project for the region? Is the right approach continue on a regional basis the way we've been looking at it? Is the right approach break it into more manageable segments and approach it that way? That needs to be decided, and then progress, I think, can be made. And hopefully today's meeting will help bring about some clarity in those issues. That's it. I think you're going to do questions and everything later, right?
Well, thank you, Secretary O'Reilly, and that was a very informative presentation. I did want to point out, by the way, that in your packet behind the agenda, we do have a copy of the map of the system that was shown, and so you can see a little bit more of the detail on the different stations that are going to be looked at. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jack Stevens, the Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, and we'll get an update on some of the current activities from SFRTA's perspective as well. And then we'll take questions for any of the panelists.
How's it go backwards and forwards? Arrow buttons. Just the arrow buttons. Okay. Left, right? Yep. Okey-doke. It hates you. Yes. It's all right. Do what? You want some new flash drive? No, it's here. Just locked up on the side. Okay. I neither sing nor dance, so we'll just have to wait. You've always loved me, Susan. Thank goodness. Yay. All right. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm Jack Stevens. I am the Executive Director of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, also known locally as Tri-Rail. This ought to be fun this morning. I will tell you, it's exciting to come and begin to have conversations in Broward. Ms. Henry and I were on a Broward workshop panel together just last week, I think. So there's no question that this particular issue is becoming more widely discussed and interested in. In that regard, let me move forward. Some of these I'll move through very quickly, but one of the things I've learned is in the last 2.5 years that I've been working in Miami, primarily with FECI and All Aboard Florida, trying to put together a connection to the Miami Central station, is that sometimes my friends in Broward and even in Palm Beach to some extent, we don't cross lines enough. We don't really understand what you've got in the other areas and what's going on there. So I've included some pictures to show you the vision and what's actually rising out of the ground. The Tri-Rail Downtown Miami Link is a connection between our current service and Miami Central Station, which is the southernmost point in Brightline and ultimately Tri-Rail Coastal Link. It's a passenger rail system, combining land use and economic development in order to bring it out of the ground. And public-private partnership is critical here. We talk about P3s all the time. This is an absolutely true P3. We got public money from various sources, and we got private money. Downtown Miami, it's a monster now. This is where the station's going to sit, over several blocks. It's going to be a major development. That's what it's going to look like. That is the development, and under it is the 2 train stations, one for Brightline and one for us, Tri-Rail. It's going to be bringing new life to the Overtown community. There's grocery stores going in, there's restaurants, there's retail. The contracts are being written almost on a daily basis. I'm sure Francois will mention that in his presentation. This is what the final version is going to look like. It's absolutely astounding. By the way, it is 50 feet in the air. The train station is 50 feet in the air, so as not to create an impediment for the urban environment, pedestrians, cars, buses, and other forms of transportation. The private sector contribution has been, in my mind, extremely supportive. The political support that they put in terms of just groundwork. They gave us the land. We're not paying for any of the land that the station is sitting on. Their development expertise has been extremely helpful. During the construction phase, they're giving us a no-interest public sector loan until we actually get in the ground and operating. And we're now going to be connected with their inner-city network. This I'll run through pretty quickly. This is the 4th quarter of 2015, and the bottom line here is this is how quickly you'll notice they're rising out of the ground. This is happening. This is going to be done by the 1st quarter of 2017 with the concrete, then the steel, same quarter. Platforms will be in the 2nd quarter of 2017, and then the precast canopies will go over it, and essentially you can begin train service. So by the 3rd quarter of 2017, if all goes well, we could be in there and providing train service alongside Brightline. They know that they're right now still, as far as I know, on schedule. You received your first train, I think, in West Palm Beach. So, I mean, my point is, in this room, we talk about planning and the future and what's going to happen, and will I still be alive when it gets here? Yeah. You're going to be alive when this gets here, because it's just next year. Hang on. There's the Brightline train. I would encourage any of you that are really interested to go to gobrightline.com. They're constantly giving updates on not just the Miami Central station and its construction, but the Fort Lauderdale station and its construction, and the West Palm. This is a joint effort. You're talking about herding cats. The funding for this particular project for the Tri-Rail portion, public portion of the station, was negotiated and contributed by Miami-Dade County. Thank you, Alice. The City of Miami. Thank you, Alice, again, because we've negotiated with her in both places. The RTA is putting in its money. The Omni CRA is putting in money in this deal. The Overtown Park West CRA is putting in money. The Miami Downtown Development Authority and the Bayfront Park Trust. So think about bringing all of those various components together to create the $70 million that is necessary to actually make this a reality. And I will tell you, all of that money is currently in place. This is what it's going to look like. I told you it was 50 feet in the air. We're going to have 2 tracks on the west side of the station. Brightline's going to have 3 tracks on the east side of the station. There's going to be retail down below, and ours is going to be open to the public, just like all of our Tri-Rail stations are. Brightline's going to be a little bit different. They're going to have a little bit more security, more like an airport type environment. They're going to be having luggage and that kind of stuff going on their train. But again, the important part is the floor, the foundation is open. People can move and the city stays alive. It's been a 2-year negotiation putting together this financial plan. It's going to be 18 months to implementation. We're aiming for late 2017. We got our fingers crossed. There's a lot of work we got to do to get there, but I think it's doable. This is what it's going to look like. If you look at the black line coming down through Golden Glades all the way down to the MIC, that is what we run currently. The plan at this point in time is just south of the Metro Rail transfer station at an area called Iris, which is right at 71st Street. We're going to be hanging a hard east on the FEC line and coming all the way out to the FEC main line, going south at that point down into the Miami Central Station. That particular activity is currently modeled, and we have approval as of yesterday. I think we got final approval yesterday that we will be able, we have determined that we can work between Freight, Brightline, and the commuter rail, tri-rail system to make that activity in there happen. There will be 26 trains going into downtown Miami. There will continue to be 24 direct one-seat rides into the MIC, the Miami Intermodal Center, but the other 26 trains going in there will be a shuttle. By virtue of that, we will maintain 50 train connection to the Miami airport. It's a major economic generator, and we've got to keep it alive and our people serving it. All right, potential future Tri-Rail Coastal Link phase in Miami-Dade County. This is what's got everybody really excited right now. Once we get into Miami Central, again, end of next year, then it becomes almost a given, low-hanging fruit is what we like to talk about, that we can actually then provide service on the Northeast Corridor, which is one of Miami-Dade's smart corridors that they're looking at right now, smart plan corridors. We will be able to provide service from Miami Central Station all the way up to Aventura. So that would be able to take place in a fairly short period of time. Now, what does that mean? You get to Aventura and you're on the doorstep of Broward County. And that, I think, that reality is what's brought this group together and other groups together. All of a sudden, you're seeing that it's here. So, what are we looking at this point? These are the next 4 stations going up into Broward. They, run from Hallandale all the way up to where the airport station might be. I'm not going to say it's going to be there, but it might be there. That's what we're looking at. Hollywood, Dania, a number of cities in there. Jerry's already gone over that. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made. It comes out of the project development study, but this is kind of the concept that we're looking at. But this is where you run into a problem. We want an honest, straightforward discussion. We cannot go as a commuter rail system without across New River without a new bridge. Now, we can get into who's going to build it, how much it's going to cost, what's it going to look like. You go down the whole list. The fact of the matter is the existing Bascule Bridge that belongs to FECI, upon which the freight operates currently, will be able to schedule the Brightline trains, working very closely with Phil Purcell and the marine industries to protect the vital economic interest of that marine industry to Broward County and Fort Lauderdale. There's no way that bridge can handle commuter rail. It would just be down all the time. So that's out, folks. That's never going to happen. We will have to find a way across New River. And that's going to be one of the challenges going forward. It's just money. It's just engineering. My friends in the engineering field say they can engineer anything you give them enough money. So, but that's going to be one of the things we're going to have to look at. And this is, I'm not going to go into this. This is how you would continue on up with Fort Lauderdale area, Oakland Park, Wilton Manors, Pompano Beach crossover. This is the one Jerry was talking about. That could even become extremely critical future-wise as a freight access from Port Everglades if anything happens on any other parts of the rail. And then I cannot leave out my friends in Palm Beach County. Let me see if I can show you this. It's a little bit difficult. I don't know if this will reach that far or not. We'll try it. Yeah, okay. What will happen is we can come, that connection that Jerry told you about that is going to occur right here in West Palm Beach, that's going to connect the two corridors. That's it right there. And we'll be able to technically come off of our current corridor, the CSX South Florida Rail Corridor, cross over and run all the way up to Jupiter once my friends at FECI give us an access fee. So that's the exciting part. That can happen at any point in time once this little connection here that you see is made. So we are pulling it together right now, at least as far as the way we're looking at it at the SFRTA. It's kind of sort of piecemeal because that's kind of sort of where it ended up. We've always studied the full corridor. FDOT, as far as I'm concerned, is still responsible for the entire corridor, the entire study, but it may end up occurring just because of the realities of the world in a piecemeal fashion like Jerry mentioned earlier. That's still to be seen. That's the connection to Jupiter. So Palm Beach will finally get what they've been looking for, and all the three counties will be tied in. A lot of us, we talked about funding. I'm just throwing this slide up in there to let you know. These are all the funding options that we have gone through since we began this study. We have exhausted all of these to date. None of them have really gotten traction. We almost got a rental car fee, but our good governor vetoed that, even though our current Senator Marco Rubio helped get it through the House. So, you can't always win. But this just lets you know we do work on this. We have been working on this. We continue to work on the financial side. As Jerry said, it is the most critical. It's the delimiting factor, particularly in regards to operating. So, what's required? Local funding, capital, operating, and maintenance, Jerry's already talked to. Negotiate a corridor access fee or some way of utilizing the FEC corridor. Project development, we need to move into project development so that we can get into the federal discretionary grant programs that are necessary, and then get into design and construction. We're ready to move, folks, and it actually is moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And I have to say, those photos of the station going up were definitely the transportation nerd moment of the day so far. So very exciting to see. And we have some time for some questions for Jerry or for Jack or Mayor Haney and Commissioner Asif have also graciously stayed here as well. So let me open it up. And again, someone may come to the mic, or we got a few on the card as well, perhaps. Thank you. And please just state your name and organization.
Hi, my name is Robert Larson. I represent Flagler Village. We have a lot to gain from, obviously, on the tracks there on the east side. So to understand it better then, that the New River, could you explain the real impediment there and what that workaround might look like and when? I mean, are we looking at having to go out to CSX and then come back in at Pompano to get up the coastal link? What might that look like?
Okay.
So today, it's just freight trains, and ultimately Bright Line trains will run across the Bascule Bridge at the New River. The project development study will look at what happens when you layer passenger rail, commuter rail on top of that. So a crossing has to be made of the New River. That project development study hasn't started yet, so it's hard to tell you what it'll look like. We will go through an extensive process working with the locals, working with the people who are impacted, the marine industry, the residents in the area. You know, I've heard talk of tunnels, I've heard talk of high bridges, I've heard lots of different things, but the study hasn't started yet. But what Jack said is 100% correct. To layer the commuter rail that we've talked about, the 52 trains, we need to get at least one track up in the air across or under or something to cross that water body so that it's not opening and closing the whole time. So there needs to be a new crossing there. But the study hasn't started yet.
Okay. Let's go this side, then we'll come back.
My name is Vincent Scudalara. I represent Southern Boating Magazine, and the question is for Jerry. There are a lot of folks, businesses with a very large economic impact up the river, marinas and boat building operations. And what are those specific options for that bridge?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right, not a problem. I prefer people not to know my name, actually. Everybody, I think, understands, particularly Broward County in the southeast Florida, the absolute criticality of the marine industry in that area to Broward County and the economics of this area. I work closely with Phil Purcell and his people in terms of making sure we keep that and the access to those industries foremost in our mind when we're talking about any kind of crossings at that bridge. I can let Francois speak to this if he so desires, but at this point in time, from what I understand, the current bridge is being revamped, if you will, upgraded electronics and that kind of stuff to make sure it's working at its peak, is what I've been told. And they will be scheduling service across that bridge in conjunction with the marine industry and the access, so that we'll use a lot of social media, you know, to get the word out when the bridge is going to be up, when it's going to be down, so that the boats know when to come and go and what their schedule is going to be. It's forefront in everybody's mind, and it's not something that anybody, I believe, would want to cause harm to. So.
And is a flyover a possibility?
If there is a new bridge, personal opinion, he's the engineer, okay, and it'll come out of the study that he's doing. I anticipate a bridge that's high enough that a sufficient number of the boats that have to access that particular area, marine industry area, will be able to go under it without it having to open, but that it will be a Bascule bridge that will be opening for the larger yachts that need also to access that area.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to say the study hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
So we will do extensive public outreach, look at multiple alternatives. We'll look at the efficiency, the effectiveness from a cost perspective, environmental impact perspective, public impact, and then work with the community and the U.S. Coast Guard to determine what the alternative is that can be built. But that study hasn't started yet, so nobody can tell you whether Jack thinks it'll be a bridge or what height it'll be or a tunnel. Nobody knows that yet because the study hasn't been done.
Cool.
Once the project development study kicks off, that's probably going to be the timeline that it passes through to get the work done so that we can get a solution for what's the right thing to build there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Romney Rogers. I'm the City Commissioner for District 4, which encompasses downtown and many of, if not all of the homeowners and marinas that own property to the west and down the river. And Jerry, thank you for your comments, but I think the key here is that it's going to take so long to get to the point where we not only decide on what the passage is going to be, but how to pay for it, that we can't leave this to the last man standing conversation, because the conversation has previously taken place. FDOT did come up with both design and cost factors of all types of bridges and the tunnel.
Yep.
So there's been lots of conversations in Fort Lauderdale on that, many by residents. There were workshops and the like. So my question is, when do we really start to dig in on this huge issue for the city of Fort Lauderdale? And because it's not only a practical decision that has to be made, but it's also an aesthetic decision, because people get really upset when you start changing their view of things. And the river in Fort Lauderdale is really important, not only for its economic impact and its pleasure impact, but the aesthetic aspect. So just so you'll know, many of my residents have come to the conclusion that the only viable way to do this is a tunnel, even though it's the most expensive one. So my question is, when do we really put the pedal to the metal and get studying this issue?
So I think I agree with everything you said. It's how that river gets crossed, whether it's up in the air or underneath. I put up a slide that said these decisions need to be made where an access fee comes from, where operating costs come from, etc. They have to be made, or at least get into the process so we know what we're doing before that project development study starts. We've done the planning work. So in that, we looked at tunnels, we looked at bridges, and did some cost estimates of everything. But the actual real study will not start until the decision is made to move forward with project development in Broward County.
So there's no date for the study?
Yeah, because there's absolutely no point in studying it today, and it'll never get operating money, and it won't be built for 40 years. Maybe we'll build something different in 40 years. But if decisions are made that people are going to put operating funds and start making commitments, then it could start getting studied immediately. It all depends on where that money is going to come from for an access fee and for operating, and who makes commitments to say they'll move forward with that before it makes sense to spend any more money on a really expensive and contentious study.
Well, but I think it goes without saying that it's sort of a chicken and egg issue there, because people aren't going to buy into it unless they know what it's going to look like and how it's going to function. Whether or not Fort Lauderdale can contribute to this, we got to know what it's going to look like and how it's going to function before we can do that.
Yeah, I think people have to buy into the commitment that they want commuter rail on the FEC line north of that location. Once they commit to that, the study would go full force at addressing those issues you talked about.
All right, well, anyway, thank you for taking over the WAVE project, though. We're happy to.
All right, thank you.
Ditto.
My name's Barry Summerstein. I'm with Green Spoon Martyr. Jerry, I've worked with your department doing intermodal facilities for transportation villages at your existing stations. Are you going to continue the policy with new stations having a public-private partnership with the development community to create these transportation villages around the stations?
So Jack's probably a better person to answer that. The way the project is envisaged moving forward is we get it through project development phase, and then when construction and development it'd hand over. But it's probably going to be the same answer either way.
It's the same answer for both of us.
Yes.
The way we're looking at it right now is we're looking for any funds that we can get. Now, there's certain ways that you know, certain developers have come to us at various sites and said, we'll give you the land, we'll build a station for you, give us the specs, that kind of thing. That's actually occurred, conversational level, no contracts, okay? So if that occurs, then there are certain federal requirements that we have to go through that Jerry reminds me of routinely in order to keep that particular project federalized so that we can get federal dollars for it and keep that within that framework. So we're looking at that. We're also, from the regional point of view, developing standards for transit-oriented development that will be supportive and create ridership and densities around those stations. So all of those things are in play. Any way we can get money, the old way was you know, we get 25 from the state, 25 local, and 50 from the feds. That's kind of, you know, that's nice, but it's not necessarily going to work. We're going to have to really do some creative financing, if you will, and get new private partners to come in with us so that we're all going to be able to do well, I think.
Are you going to be creating RFP standards for doing that?
They're talking about it at this point in time, yes. So my board is.
All right, let's just take the 3 questions we have queued up, and then we'll kind of move along. We'll have an opportunity later during the panel for additional questions. I think on this side now.
Good morning, gentlemen. Kerry Goldberg, I'm a member of the Regional Planning Council. I'm also the chair of Envision Uptown, Inc., which is the group of private-public partnership put together in the Cypress Creek area, which is the largest employment sector in all of Broward County. And this obviously is something very important to us, knowing that we have one of the top tri-rail stations currently there operating today. But we've done a lot of studying, as everybody likes to do, over looking at other areas outside of our state, i.e. Dallas, and what they've done along their rail line and how they've created these urban villages, if you will, TODs. And we obviously see that we have a tremendous opportunity to create this in that market, including that's what the employers need in order to get the employees and to keep them here. But this connection opportunity, and what I've always learned, and I like to try to apply some common sense to things, is that people aren't comfortable riding public transportation unless they are confident that they can not only go where they want to go, but they can get back to where they want to get very easily. And it seems to me, again, assuming we get through the obvious hurdle of the funding source, when we look at stations, and we discussed this several years ago when it was first proposed, and we got into this 2.5 mile spacing, I don't know if that's an actual requirement. It has to be. It doesn't. I don't know. Obviously, in other parts of the country, you're much closer. But we look at a Pompano and Oakland Park, and we have a very politically driven process because every city wants to have that. But in a practical sense, to be able to connect the downtown, the airport, the port to the major employment sectors seems to be what should be a major focus of this. So my question really becomes, A, how set, providing we go forward, how set are we on these stations that you put up here, as well as what do you do about that 2.5 mile radius? Because if we go in right now and just say, hey, you know what, this employment sector right here, the only way you're going to be able to get people to downtown is they got to hop on, they got to go north up to Pompano crossover, and then go south again. It's potentially a major issue.
You want me? Well, let me just speak to the last point. One of the things that we have learned in transportation is that, like you said, people like convenience, they like a one-seat ride. So to the extent possible, we need to plan and model for a one-seat ride and not have to do that, what you're talking about. You can't always be perfect with that. But the issue in terms of, and Jerry may want to speak to this too, the spacing between the cities is based on modeling in terms of what you're looking at for speed. Every time you have to slow down and stop for a stop, it increases the time from destination. I think that's obvious. But there is absolutely, to my knowledge, no absolute requirement that it has to be 2.5 or 5 or whatever. They're just standards that are good operating standards, but they're on a site-specific, case-by-case basis decision, depending.
Yeah, and just to add to what you said, Jack, I think the goal is what service can start up that's cost-effective and can work the day it starts. That doesn't speak to what it can grow into at all. But it's an attempt to say, how many stations do we need to get the ridership that'll make sense? And whether that includes every city on the corridor or some but not others, I think you've got to start somewhere. I think the biggest focus at the moment should be, how do we get operating money and get a funding plan to make this thing work? And then it'd be really nice to be able to talk about what are the stations we can build immediately and then add and how they get done. But so money is the major focus. But could stations get added? Yeah, of course they could. Of course they could. That process hasn't even started yet, but we believe the ones we put up there are the right ones to study to say what's the beginning service.
Is there opportunity to, when you talk about ridership though, and I don't know enough of that, but who are the riders going to be that will be using this, and to be able to tap the employment sector seems to me that that's where the majority of the ridership would come from in the interim when you're putting your budget together. So is there an opportunity to reevaluate then these identified locations as a starting point?
I think the issues you brought up, it's easy. I can put you in contact with the ridership and the modeling people, what they looked at in the Uptown area, and you could give good input to say, well, you know, you missed X, or you missed Y, or here's where the future development is, and you're not representing correctly potential ridership in this area. That can happen with the study people.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Green. I'm a city commissioner in Wilton Manors, a member of the Broward MPO, and a member of the Florida League of Cities Transportation Committee. Our city has planned for this. A lot of people keep talking about what they're going to do. We've already zoned the entire length of the rail area through Wilton Manors, and we have already developed a large number of large-scale apartment complexes. We have pledged money for the maintenance and operation or construction. We have city-owned property that we are willing to use that is located right where a station should be. We have an incredible number of tourists, very specialized LGBT tourists that come to Wilton Manors. No gay person visits Broward County without coming to Wilton Manors. So when you talk about people using a station, it's not just residents and it's not just employment. And I think that this has not been mentioned enough. Finally, getting to my question, do we need any special authority from the state or the county to impose a city fee on any businesses within a certain distance of a proposed station for Wilton Manors, or can this be done simply at the city level?
So I don't think you have the right experts to talk to that, standing up here or sitting here.
Exactly. There is currently being studied, and I can't get into it too deeply. There's current statute that will allow for TIF, tax increment financing areas, to be imposed by local government. There's a lot of challenges involved in it. Is there already a TIF? Is there already a CRA? But there is legislation that we're looking at in conjunction with Miami-Dade County, and that activity down there at this point in time, as well as anticipating the possibility of where it could potentially be used going north on the Tri-Rail Coastal Link. The area we're in right now is to refine the figures and then go out to our cities like Wilton Manors and say, here's what we know, here's what we found out. You need to know it. What you do with it is your local, whatever you want to do with it. But we're trying to put it together, and with the idea, the board would like to roll it out so that you're aware of it. And it's an educational effort, and then that can be part of your package coming forward.
Thanks.
Sure.
Tom, I'll just mention that too. The City of Boca Raton, we're embarking in a mobility study currently to get fees from certain developments around our transit corridor. So it is your home rule authority as a municipality to impose a fee of that type.
Good morning, Phil Purcell with the Marine Industry. Thanks for Jack and Jerry and for hosting this. It means a lot. You know, currently we're working with the FEC and Brightline to figure out how to modernize that bridge. It's a big impact to our industry. It's 12 days direct, and so not only is that, it's to the homeowners upstream also. So it's a huge impact, and so we're going to have to figure out and working with the Coast Guard to message this out, because it literally shuts the river down for 12 days, and it doesn't sound like a lot. It's huge. It's in the middle of the season. We cannot do it, I'm told, past June because of hurricane season, which the most opportune time to actually do it is June. And so those are the things that we're trying to work through right now. That said, in addition, when you look at the bridge, obviously we knew a new bridge over the river. That study was done in 2004 by FDOT, so we already know that whether it's a tunnel or it's raised, that's the way we need to go. And how high and what it opens at, that's TBD. But inclusive of that, we need to also include Broward Boulevard. There is no major thoroughfare in the world that runs it great. Broward Boulevard's a major thoroughfare. The impact and the development that's happened east of the tracks and north of the river needs to be considered. And so when we talk about the bridge, we need to talk about, or a tunnel, that also goes over Broward Boulevard to include the rest of the community so this community can work effectively and be futuristic. But we can't allow trains or tri-rails to start crossing that river until this bridge is built, because it will shut our industry down. And you have an $8.8 billion industry that employs 110,000 people that we can't put at risk. So we appreciate your time and look forward to a solution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And appreciate all of the questions and comments. I know this is a great head start on the panel we'll be having later today to really talk about the issues in Broward County. And I did get a couple on the index cards that we'll try to address a little bit later, but I will give Jerry and Jack a heads up on the topics, and a question about ridership numbers projected for both Coastal Link and Brightline, and also cost per rider for operations and how that might get allocated among the counties. And maybe we can address those a little bit later in the panel. So with that, please join me in thanking our panel for their expertise. Great. All right, so I am hoping our next panel has all arrived. Excellent. So as we heard, transportation projects often are a long time in making, but we've actually had some tremendous progress in Miami-Dade County just in a very short amount of time. So we have a panel that's come to talk to us a little bit about how that's happened, and we appreciate their expertise. I'll introduce them as they come up. Eileen Bouclé, who's already mentioned, the Executive Director of the Miami-Dade Metropolitan Planning Organization. Francis Suarez, who's the Vice Chairman of the Miami-Dade MPO and also a Commissioner of the City of Miami District 4, President of the Miami League of Cities. Thank you for joining us, and we're glad you made it through the traffic. And then also Commissioner Steve Abrams from Palm Beach County. And no, I'm not geographically challenged. Actually, Commissioner Abrams is also Vice Chair of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority and was the liaison from SFRTA to negotiate this process. So they're each going to speak a little bit on sort of how the Miami link has come together in a very short amount of time, and some of the lessons of success there. So I'll begin with Eileen.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today. I think what I'd like to do is really spend a few minutes talking about the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Plan that Miami-Dade County has prioritized. Our SMART plan, which the term was coined by our Vice Chairman, Francis Suarez, Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit, really not only represents a SMART plan for Miami-Dade County, but a SMART region for Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. I have a short 4-minute video that has the overview of the SMART plan, and you'll see all the logos from Monroe County all the way up to Palm Beach to see the regional impact of what transit, commuter rail, and other transit projects, and how we're connecting, how we're all organizing as a region. So I know there's a video. If someone can help me, I'll just be throwing out some facts for you while we're getting the video going. I've had the pleasure of doing peer exchanges this year with various regions across the United States. In particular, I focused on those that are the most successful in forming consensus and winning and bringing new federal transportation funds to their regions. And there's a few things that really stand out that you see consistently over and over again, which is the ability of regions to come together and form a coalition and a strong consensus to really advocate.
Miami Area Rapid Transit.
Let's watch the video and then we'll continue on the statistics.
The Miami-Dade Metropolitan Planning Organization is prioritized Miami Area Rapid Transit, or SMART Plan, identifies 6 rapid transit corridors that directly support the mobility of our Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit, SMART Plan. The Miami-Dade Metropolitan Planning Organization has prioritized the growth and expansion of mass transit in order to address congestion and provide alternate transportation choices for the residents and visitors of our region. As the most populous county in the state of Florida, with millions of visitors each year, the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit, or SMART Plan, identifies 6 rapid transit corridors that directly support the mobility of our future population and employment growth. A critical component of the plan is a network of express buses that will seamlessly connect the SMART Plan corridors with our existing Metro Rail system. The SMART Plan was the result of a comprehensive year-long effort by the MPO Transit Solutions Committee that included hosting a transit workshop and competition of ideas, as well as participating in peer exchanges with other regions. These community-wide efforts created strong consensus, which led to unanimous support and adoption of the SMART Plan by the MPO Governing Board on April 21, 2016. The 6 rapid transit corridors identified in the SMART Plan have long been documented in Miami-Dade County's Long-Range Transportation Plan and are consistent with the People's Transportation Plan. In addition, the Long-Range Transportation Plan was amended by the MPO Governing Board by a unanimous resolution that set as highest priority the advancement of rapid transit corridors and transit supportive projects in Miami-Dade County. These corridors are supported by the Miami-Dade MPO, Miami-Dade County Mayor, the Department of Transportation and Public Works, as well as multiple other entities. The adopted SMART Plan has been approved to advance the corridors to Step 3 Project Development and Environmental Phase in order to pursue federal and state transportation funds.